especially in the last 18 months, have obviously focused on expanding and improving their existing networks. But nevertheless, 5G is obviously inevitable across pretty much all countries, and it's going to be very important to ensure that 5G is planned in a way that it doesn't deepen the existing digital divide that we've seen. This is going to be especially important in a post-pandemic world. We saw the global economy contracted by 8% last year. So in order to boost growth in a post-pandemic world, there's a vital role that 5G can play. Within GSMA Intelligence, our analysis suggests that on current trends, 5G will add more than $600 billion to the global economy, which represents around 2% of income growth over the next decade. The use cases around mobile broadband and low latency connections, fixed wireless access and massive IoT will particularly benefit sectors such as manufacturing, services and retail. So this is based on current trends, but obviously the benefits of 5G can be increased and also accelerated if we can find ways to accelerate 5G in emerging markets as well. So I will leave it there and hand over.
Thank you very much indeed, Calvin. Now, remember, please do share with us your questions and comments because we will be coming to those a little bit later on. Next up today, here to share some market and consumer insights on 5G usage and adoption is VP and co-founder of Counterpoint Research, Peter Richardson. Peter.
All right, thanks, David, and hello, everyone. In this brief presentation, I will argue that 5G is a foundational technology that is going to fundamentally change the way that people live, learn, and work. But one thing that I've learned over my many years in technology is that people tend to overestimate how quickly things will change, but to underestimate just how much things will change over a longer time span. So let's take a look at how these changes are going to take place. The mobile industry as we know it today is actually little more than 40 years old, with new generations of mobile technology coming about every 10 years. 2G systems were launched almost exactly 30 years ago and are still with us. Around 20 years ago, third generation systems started to be rolled out, and 3G improved data speeds, but not actually by very much. The first smartphones, the Apple iPhone, appeared in 2007, with the first Android phone arriving about a year later. These paved the way for the development of the smartphones we use today, with rich applications and, more recently, devices that partner with the smartphone, such as smartwatches and hearables. 4G technology arrived around 10 years ago, and 4G added much more data speed and became the backbone of the mobile industry. And 4G is impressive, but it is prone to congestion at peak hours, and there are limits to the number of devices that can be connected within certain locations. So starting in 2019, 5G started to roll out in a few countries around the world, such as South Korea, the US and China, and this number has grown ever since, with around 160 networks now in more than 60 markets available, as Calvin mentioned earlier. Now, 5G is built on three principal targets: broadband data speeds for all, and this can potentially be up to 10 gigabits per second, but mostly it's in the hundreds of megabits per second. Reliable connections with low latency, meaning the speed of response to a request comes within a few milliseconds, and the ability for actually millions of connected devices to work simultaneously in close proximity. And whilst 5G is an important technology, it's actually only one of several that are significant and coming around this same time. And the impact of these technologies is not additive, but multiplicative. They will each support each other and allow new combinations of capabilities. 5G will be joined, for example, by new generations of Wi-Fi and the latest low-energy versions of technologies like Bluetooth to create a ubiquitous level of connectivity. Artificial intelligence, and specifically machine learning, is another critical development. And I'm not necessarily talking about anything very radical here, but my phone, for example, knows when I'm taking a picture of my dog and will adjust the settings accordingly. Or a service that proposes new music based on my previous listening history. These are subtle, but they really add to my overall experience. And much of the machine learning takes place in the cloud. However, a trend that we're now seeing is the migration of some of that computing power towards the edge of the network, where content and computing resources can be provided to people in the local area, and that can speed up the delivery and responsiveness of services. And there are new ways of interacting with technology and even with each other that are also developing quickly. Virtual and augmented reality have taken a long time to develop, but progress is speeding up now. So what do these changes mean for a typical 5G consumer? Esports, for example, is a huge industry, and casual gaming is even bigger. Applications such as real-time cloud gaming are already starting to deliver the promise of being able to run console-quality games on mobile devices. Other applications we will likely see in the next few years could be having a front row seat at a concert, a virtual front row seat, even when you're miles away, and being able to share this experience with friends who are also miles away, or perhaps being able to select the best angle to view a goal being scored or a boundary being hit, or if taking part in sports is your thing, then getting real-time coaching to improve your performance based on your own unique physical attributes. And if we look at how the adoption of 5G is tracking so far, this chart shows the proportion of phone shipments that are 5G. The grey dotted line shows the progression of 4G over the same time period following its launch. Within the first year, you can see that 5G has accelerated ahead of 4G, and the gap has been widening ever since. The comparison is perhaps a little unfair because the mobile industry is in a different place than it was 10 years ago, but the growth of 5G is still impressive, as 2020 was blighted by COVID. There are several reasons why 5G is taking off so quickly, but one of the main drivers has been a more rapid reduction in smartphone prices than had been expected. In China, we saw that already by the end of 2020, competition had delivered some great products at affordable prices, with realme being the most aggressive with its V3 5G at around $145. Realme is also popularizing the technology across many other countries around the world with a series of compelling products with great specifications at surprisingly affordable prices. We think the fast initial growth will continue in the next few years. We've added our forecast of 5G shipments to the chart here. Given the rapid diffusion of 5G technology through the price tiers, we can expect 5G devices to make up almost a third of phone sales this year, more than a half in 2023, and almost 3 in every 4 phones sold in 2025. And looking at the competitive landscape, we can expect some changes ahead. Every generation of cellular technology has seen a different mix of players taking the lead. In the 3G era, it was Nokia, with Samsung taking over in 4G. As we look ahead to 5G, the list of players will continue to include Samsung and Apple, but they will be joined by Xiaomi, Oppo and Vivo. However, realme is one of the fastest growing brands thanks to its appeal to younger users who are bound to form a core part of the 5G market. 5G is one of the hottest technology trends in smartphones right now, but it's not the only one. Unfortunately, we only have time to touch on a couple, but both are significant. The first relates to cameras that have been getting better and better ever since they were first introduced to phones. Smartphone makers understand that what you lose in lens size, you can compensate for in software. And the trend has been to equip more smartphones with multiple lens camera systems that provide for things like wide angle and optical zoom, and features including AI-driven scene recognition, image stabilization, and night mode means that the camera systems on smartphones can deliver astonishing results. So much so that for most people, most of the time, the smartphone is all the camera they will ever need. And this has in itself enabled multiple applications to blossom, such as TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and many, many more. And the camera systems have been matched by display technology that has also developed rapidly over the last few years. Thin bezels, innovative front camera placement, and under-display fingerprint recognition means that display sizes can be maximized while keeping the overall dimensions of phones manageable. Again, realme is a good example of this, with optimal displays matched to excellent mechanical design, which means that smartphones remain surprisingly lightweight. So what are people doing with 5G? A recently published survey by Ericsson has answered this, and the answer is more. More things that we've been talking about. more cloud gaming, more streaming of high-quality music and video, and increased use of virtual and augmented reality. In addition, 5G users are able to rely much less on Wi-Fi compared to 4G users. And this has been especially important in the last few months, as many families are contending with both parents working from home and while younger family members are having to study from home. So the ability for one or more family members to work or learn via an unlimited 5G connection relieves pressure on strained fixed-line broadband, and that's a win-win for all. So to wrap up, 5G is coming, and more quickly than previous generations of mobile technology. In addition to 5G, other technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud energy computing, and virtual reality will underpin the revolution of how people live, learn, and work. But while this is transformational, it will not happen overnight, but happen it will. And we expect new brands such as realme to help make this transition real by making 5G more accessible, especially to younger age groups who are most likely to be the earliest to use these capabilities. Thanks for your attention. And now back to David.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now it's time to hear from a device manufacturer with a keen awareness of the 5G markets that we've been exploring so far today. So let me hand over first to VP of realme and CEO of realme India and Europe, Madhav Sheth.
Thanks to Calvin and Peter for kindly sharing your thoughts and insights. Hello everyone, I'm Madhav Sheth, Vice President of realme and CEO of realme India and Europe. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy and taking good care of yourself. I'm happy to share key insights about 5G with all of you through this 5G webinar. Realme was established in 2018 during the eve of the 5G era, and now, after 3 years, global mobile internet has officially entered the 5G era. Right from the very beginning, we were thinking, what is realme's role going to be in the 5G era? What will be the relationship between 5G and the young generation? After a long period of thinking, analysis, and initial assessments, Realme now firmly believes that 5G will become the most important driving force, accelerating smart life for young people across the globe. Let's talk about 5G devices first. We launched a survey on our 5G smartphones among young people, hoping to get a deeper understanding of what kind of 5G smartphones young users need and aspire for in the future. We found that with the popularization of 5G technology, user demands for the overall performance of smartphones are gradually increasing, which didn't come as a surprise to us. There was also a significant increase in demand for thinner and lighter 5G smartphones among young people. There is an expectation among young people that with an upgrade of 5G technology, smartphones will also undergo a radical revolution. And this expectation has made the desire to experience the next generation of smartphones to be exceptional. Keeping this in mind, we believe that the lighter and thinner designs with unique design features will come and become the most important aspect of this evolution. Upgrading from the 4G to 5G requires a complete and a significant overhaul. It means equipping the smartphones with 4 times the number of antennas, increasing the overall number of components by 25 to 40%. And at the same time, it also means that the high-performance components within the smartphones will increase the amount of heat generated during their operations. That is, there will be a greater requirement of the structural design of the smartphones. This change will make the task of designing thinner and lighter smartphones more difficult because of the increased design constraints. But Realme believes that the greater challenges also mean greater opportunities, especially for the brand like us. After entering the 5G era, Realme has made continuous efforts to optimize smartphone designs. The average thickness of Realme's 5G device is only 8.4 mm and the weight comes at only 182 grams, compared with the previous generation of 4G devices. We have managed to remove an average of around 0.5 mm and 7 grams from our smartphones, which is exceptional, isn't it? Realme's latest 5G smartphone weighs only 170 grams and is only 7.8 mm thick, and is huge improvement in hand comfort and design compared to 4G products. Starting with our 5G model, the Realme X50. In the current X5G product series, Realme tried dozens of new design concepts, constantly drawing inspirations from popular culture to expand the possibilities of mobile ID designs. which has become an important way for the young people to express their individuality. The thinner and more design-rich 5G products have been popular with young consumers worldwide, which has enabled Realme to strengthen its determination further to build slim and cool 5G smartphones for the young consumers in the 5G era. Also, performance is an aspect that cannot be compromised. While taking into account or incorporating the thinness and the lightness design aspects of a smartphone, Realme understands these aspects, and in the future, Realme aims to bring the most powerful 5G smartphones in various price segments, further improving on the heat dissipation, processing power, battery life, and network speed. To make this a reality, Realme will use the latest 5G processors, optimize the antenna system, and apply more advanced cooling technology and fast charging solutions to its smartphones, bringing the overall performance and the experience of 5G smartphones to a new level. After 3 to 4 years of development, Realme believes that 5G smartphones development has also entered the 2.0 era. In the 1.0 era, 5G was limited to the high-end flagship devices, and this product used to cost a bomb. And yet the 5G experience was not complete. From 2020, 5G smartphone development officially entered the 2.0 era. Realme believes that in the 2.0 era, there are three very major characteristics that will play an exceptional role in the development and the adoption of the 5G smartphones. The first characteristic is that the 5G smartphone experience is gradually become complete. Integrated 5G modem, standalone network access, 5G multiband support, 5G voice over new network, all integral to the 5G experience, are gradually becoming a standard and setting the benchmark for the 2.0 era. The second characteristic is that 5G smartphones prices will go down with more progress in the development and will be available in the mid-range and even entry-level segments at a much faster rate, leading to more adoption amongst different customers. And the third characteristic is that the 5G will drive high-end flagship to achieve more technological breakthroughs. In the next 2 to 3 years, the smartphone technological innovation will enter a new, highly dynamic period. Realme has also replanned its 5G product line, which currently covers a price range from USD 150 to USD 600. In the future, Realme will also like to democratize 5G by launching a 5G smartphones around 100 USD, further accelerating 5G adoptions. In the 5G product metrics, the number series, the pioneers Realme 5G entry into the market, while the Narzo series will leverage 5G technology to deliver highly optimized 5G gaming experience to the gaming enthusiasts. At the same time, during the dynamic 5G 2.0 era, the Realme GT series will serve as the Realme's new flagship and innovations around high performance and image respectively, allowing us to achieve next level technological breakthrough, keeping us ahead of the market. On this note, I would like to share two pieces of good news with you. The Realme GT 5G performance flagship will be released globally in June, and Realme GT camera flagship will be released in July. I hope Realme's 5G smartphones will bring more leap-forward surprises and best-in-market experience to more consumers. Besides the devices as a smartphone brand focusing on young consumers, Realme has discovered something interesting when we talk about 5G with young people. So next I would like to invite Johnny to share our insights with you. Over to you, Johnny.
Hi, I'm Johnny. The way we look at Realme is that 5G smartphones are very important, but that's only one part of it. We hope that Realme's 5G mobile phones will allow young generations to express themselves in ways that go beyond the physical spaces, tapping into the digital possibilities that will allow more exchanges and integration between different youth cultures. Realme believes that 5G is for the young generation. Why do I say that? Well, Realme's main users are internet natives, Gen Zs. They grew up in an era of globalization and digitalization. They're innovative, eager to express themselves, and highly receptive to new things. 5G mobile phones will become the most important tools in their hand, acting as a bridge that allow them to connect to the 5G ecosystem. What Realme has to do is to provide excellent 5G terminal devices that bridge the gap between physical and digital spaces, empower young people to connect through 5G applications in AIoT, interactive live broadcasting, cloud gaming, AR, VR, XR, and so on. These 5G applications will also further broaden young people's horizons and help them to explore innovative capabilities. forming a virtuous cycle where they will be able to develop new 5G applications and promote the advancement of the 5G ecosystem. In the process, young generations will unleash their own potential. To this end, realme will create a 5G communication platform for young people. We'll set up a 5G forum in the global realme community, getting more deeply involved in campuses around the world so we can listen to young people's expectations around 5G and discuss future 5G developments with them. Imagining new and fun 5G applications together. Feedback and suggestions from users will be incorporated into realme's 5G product development. At the same time, realme will set up more than 10 5G pop-up stores around the world, allowing young people to create exclusive spaces where they can enjoy 5G experiences with cloud gaming, ultra-clear AR, live broadcasting, and other popular 5G applications. Young generation will be able to personally experience 5G technology, and this will help them to further encourage 5G adoption among young consumers. Through these means, we hope that the young generation will be known as the forerunners of 5G, leading even more people into the 5G era. And that's all I have to share today. Hand it back to you, Madhav.
Okay, thank you, Johnny, for sharing. While adoption of 5G means more challenges from a product perspective and corresponding higher cost. But for realme, the popularization of 5G will be the most important mission in the 5G era, because we firmly believe that the greatness of this technology lies in its widespread adoption so that everyone is able to use it and thus maximize its significance. From a global perspective, the unbalanced development of 5G and the long-term coexistence of 4G and 5G will be the norm for the next few years. But the average global smartphone replacement cycle runs about for 2 years, and so to allow young people around the world to enjoy 5G technology immediately, realme will launch powerful, high-performance 5G smartphones even before the commercial 5G network is launched. During this period, young consumers will still be able to enjoy the better user experiences brought about by the overall 5G era smartphone upgrades. In the key markets around the world, realme has gradually begun to launch 5G technology-enabled products significantly earlier than the commercial 5G launches. In 2021, realme's 5G products will cover all key markets across the world, especially India, Europe, and Southeast Asia, and our 5G smartphones will be available on a large scale for the customers. In terms of the global product lines, realme will usher in a rapid increase in the 5G products. In 2020, realme launched about 14 5G products in 22 markets, accounting for about 40% of our portfolio. By 2022, the number of 5G products will reach more than about 20, accounting for 70% of all our product models across 50 markets, which will be the significant step to realize our vision to democratize 5G technology. At the same time, realme is also undergoing a rapid internal 5G transformation. Currently, 90% of realme's R&D resources have been converted to develop 5G technology and products. In the next 2 years, we'll invest a significant amount of $300 million globally in research and product development based on the 5G technology, as well as in vigorously promoting global 5G popularization. To support the global adoption of 5G products, realme will set up 7 R&D centers around the world that will be dedicated to exploring innovative 5G technologies and products. Realme will be leveraging these 7 R&D centers this year and will take the lead in carrying out 5G network pilot programs in 10 to 15 markets in preparation for 5G product launches. Successful adoption, implementation, and popularization of 5G also require that realme should work together with our industry partners and key stakeholders. In light of this, realme will conduct joint research and industrial partners on front-end module solutions that accommodate 5G components without impacting smartphone designs. This will help in quickly bringing innovative 5G devices and advanced 5G penetrations to the market. In markets where there are already commercial 5G networks available, we are jointly testing 5G products with leading operators so as to launch customized devices that will meet the local needs and improve the 5G experience for the users. In markets where commercial 5G has not yet been launched, we are actively engaging with operators and planning product compatibility in advance so that the trial could be done on the 5G networks as soon as they are available. 5G will bring realme and its young consumers closer and will strengthen the ever-growing bond. In the 5G era, realme and young people will continue to make great strides together. Over the next 3 years, realme will work harder to enable 100 million young consumers to use 5G smartphones. We'll support them to move towards a smart and trendy lifestyle to bring them a superior 5G user experience and accelerating the global penetration of 5G. So thank you guys. Stay safe and take care.
Thank you very much, Madhav. Before we head into our Q&A, it's time now for our final presentation. Our final presentation ahead of our Q&A comes courtesy of Qualcomm, a chipset vendor whose technologies and partnerships with smartphone makers plays a key role in helping to unlock the potential of 5G. So it's over to you, VP and President for Qualcomm India and SAARC, Rajan Bagadia.
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whichever part of the world you are in. Thank you for this opportunity. Interesting topic. Something probably I live it as a daily part of my life, and so do so many of us. I'm going to be talking about how 5G has taken and what is it that made it happen and who made it happen. As all of us know that the G migration, which we have seen, most of us would have seen the 2G to 3G to 4G and now the 5G migration. Qualcomm has spent over the last 30 years in each of these G migration, and most of the time the cadence is of 10 years. Typically you see a 10-year interval with which a G comes in. And every G comes, which is primarily built on top of the previous G. 5G is no different. It builds on top of what the previous Gs delivered, but there is one big, huge difference. It brings a sphere of influence which is a lot larger than what we have seen in the past. And that makes 5G very, very unique. And if I was to give you a view of what's happening and what has happened over the last probably since the beginning of the launch of 5G, here is the scene. There is a difference in what happened between 4G and 5G. The very first year of 4G, when it was launched globally around 10 years back, there were barely 4 operators who had announced the launch. And there were merely 3 OEMs or brands who were wanting to launch their devices. When 5G was announced, that's 3 years back in 2019, we had more than 80 plus operators who announced that they would launch the networks, and 40 plus had already launched. Likewise, on the OEM side, there were 40 plus OEMs who had announced that they were going to launch devices. And of that, 20 plus device OEMs did launch devices. If you see the difference between the two timings, 4G, which is barely 10 years back, the way it was adopted and the way 5G got adopted in the very first year, in terms of the carrier or the operator mindset, in terms of the OEM or the brand mindset, that is the fundamental difference. And now, as we look at what's the situation today, we are in the 3rd year of 5G. And we can see that there are 60 plus operators who have commercially deployed 5G globally. 60 plus countries, and around 160 plus operators who have actually launched 5G networks in their life. And this is what you see is the panning of the 5G. It does show sub-6 and sub-6 plus millimeter, the 2-3 variations and where it is headed. And there are more than 500 million devices that are expected to be shipped. This has been not seen in any of the previous G migrations. When we moved from either the 2G to 3G or 3G to 4G, we haven't seen this. And additionally, as we go ahead, we also see, and this chart is by far one of the most fascinating charts I've seen. This shows the difference of adoption. And as today we are talking about the accessibility and the availability of 5G, what more proof are we asking for? Here is a chart which shows how 4G moved. In the very first year of 4G, which is, as you see in the dark blue line, we had probably the shipments of 4G devices in the first year of 4G launches was barely 1 million devices. And then the second year was 7 million, and the third year was 83 million. As against that, what you are seeing is that in the first year of the launch of 5G, we had 18 million devices which were sold. And then in the second year, 246 million devices were shipped. And then we are estimating that this year, which is the third year, we would look at 566 million estimated 5G devices that are going to be shipped. What it shows is that almost 1/3 plus of the market is already converted to 5G in the first 3 years of its coming to existence. This glaringly shows how 5G has become more permeable. It has permeated more into the society, into our lives. And what made this happen? Why did this happen at all? And I would say we as technology providers, we as inventors do not take the credit for all of these. It's all because of the consumers. The huge rise in the consumption of data was one of the fundamental reasons this has happened. In India itself, today we are talking about 300 plus petabytes of data per day. And this is, mind you, during the pandemic, it has gone up. If anybody has been watching India and the consumption of data on a device per month, we are currently on 13 plus GB a month, one of the largest data consuming nations on a mobile phone per month basis. This has put a huge pressure on the networks and the operators. And this has also been one big reason that operators are moving towards 5G. Because they have to maintain the experience, they need more spectrum, they need lower cost. 5G helps to bring that cost down. As per the Ericsson Mobility Report, the data is going to grow to 60x times in between 2013 to 2024. And if we look at 2024, 75% of that data is expected to come from multimedia creation and consumption. And of the total 131 billion GB of data which the mobile networks are going to look at, 25% of this, or even upwards of that, is expected to run on 5G networks. This, I'm not talking about still the other consumption of data which 5G will fuel. 5G is going to be the first G which is also going to be used for rural connectivity. And hence anything, today probably a village will be, or a rural area, irrespective of what geography you're talking about, whether it's North America or whether it's India, the rural market connectivity, 5G millimeter wave is going to enable that. And the consumption that it will fuel because of that is still not accounted here. So what we are going to see is that this huge insatiable demand of data is one big reason why 5G has been expedited or accelerated. And what's the reason for this data consumption? This world is a lot different than 5 years ago. And I would say even in the last 2 years, almost 1.5 years rather, I would say, the pandemic has made us behave a lot different. We are more connected, we are more agile, we are more capable, we are accessing more. We consume more media, we shop more online, we socialize more, we collaborate more. Everything has changed. And we are doing more than what we would have normally done because of the pandemic too, using technology. 5G is going to change this further. It's more intuitive, more capable. It enables real-time collaboration. There are more experiences that will be powered by technologies, and 5G is going to fuel some of them. One of the big points that is worthy of noting is whenever a technology is invented, the use cases are technically not defined. The use cases come up primarily after the invention or the innovation is allowed to be played with. 5G is that platform which a lot of startups, a lot of companies will play to bring so many innovations that probably we have not even seen or not even fathomed. One of the reasons, and coming to that fact that we are looked upon as a chipset company, a technology innovator, we are very excited that the consumer is looking at 5G with a very high expectation. And whenever they do that, we are challenged, and we love challenges. The consumer is looking at 5G not just as another handset upgrade cycle. While one of the basic reasons a person would buy a 5G phone may tend to look like he's buying it for connectivity or he's buying it for probably a faster speed, it's also for the other reasons, which is better experiences. So when we look at a 5G chipset, which is the recent one, you will see that as compared to a 4G, we are talking about a lot of the latest things coming into this 5G chipset, even at the entry tier. Staying to the path that we want to bring 5G to the masses, 5G being more accessible, Qualcomm's series of chipsets which have come right across from 800 series to 400 series. Even if you take a 400 series 5G chipset, you will see the CPU and the GPU and the AI capabilities are far, far more than what you would have seen typically on a 4G device. So while even for countries where you do not necessarily see a connectivity available, one of the common questions that have been asked to most of us that, oh, is it time to buy 5G or should I wait? Just to give you a perspective that India in 2020, a year prior to even the trials of 5G were started, had more than almost 30 models of 5G launched. This year, in the first half, probably not even the first half, let's say first few months, despite the lockdowns, we have 20 more models launched. This market is very much adopting 5G because of what consumers are expecting, and they are aware that you can do a better gaming, you can do a better audio, can have a better experience of camera. So I believe that with AI capabilities on that device, a lot of these functionalities are going to be coming to the entry tier, which the consumers would love, especially when they see that connectivity has been the sole lifeline in these times of pandemic when we were separated from everybody and we were all operating from home, whether it was our office or whether it was our school or whether it was anything else. So I think that is primarily the reason why we see that 5G has been adopted faster. And with the data points I shared with you, it definitely is on a trajectory which is a lot different than what we saw on 4G. And to end it up, I think as a global technology leader, our job has been to bring the benefits of the technology and make it accessible to every strata of the society. So while we drove 3G, we drove 4G, 5G brings in that challenge of additional challenges, not just on the mobile device, but also in the surrounding sphere of influence. And we are there to help our ecosystem partners, and we have realme here as a partner. They bring the devices, they bring our solutions to the market. We have, as Qualcomm, never seen in our past enable an entry tier so early in the cycle of a G. In 5G, we have ensured that we make it available so that most of the countries like India, they can be enabled with 5G. We have seen that success in 4G, and we use that sort of the enthusiasm, that sort of gratification we got out of making 4G universally available in India. We want to do that for 5G too. Our motto at Qualcomm still stays that it's 5G for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Rajan. And thank you to all of our guests for their presentations today, and well, for joining us now for our live panel Q&A. Thank you all for watching and for sharing your questions in the box below. Please do keep the questions coming in. I've got a few questions we're going to go through first of all that I hope are sweeping up many of the questions that I've seen coming in over the last few minutes. So the first one I'll kick off with is this. 5G could be said to be a developed market story. We saw from some of the charts, North America, Korea, Japan, China, where 5G devices are already making up a significant share of sales. So Calvin from GSMA Intelligence, I'll come to you first of all, and then perhaps you, Peter, with this. What do you think it will take to spur broader growth of 5G devices?
Thank you very much, Peter. A really good question. I think we saw there are a number of factors that drive people to use 5G or that might stop them doing it. I think if I was to focus on one, it would be affordability. And the reason for that is I think it's been touched on by particularly by Madhav in his presentation, which is that when we're looking at emerging markets, we're talking about very young populations. The median age in India and Indonesia is less than 30 compared to 40 in most developed economies. In some African countries, it's even less. So you've got a very large young population that's tech savvy that wants to use the phone, but it's about their purchasing power maybe less than higher income countries. So it's really about driving that access.
Super. Know your audience, know their purchasing power. Thank you very much indeed. Peter, over to you. What do you think it's going to take to go to the next level in terms of adoption?
Yeah, I think it's all of what has been said, and I think affordability is a key factor. And one of the things that has actually really surprised us is how rapidly the price of 5G devices has come down, and realme actually has been driving that. So as I mentioned in my presentation, already by the end of 2020, we were seeing devices in the sort of $150 range, and that is spreading around the world. And as both Rajan and Madhav have said, the sales of devices in markets like India that don't even have 5G networks yet has been amazingly high. So we're seeing the adoption by consumers of 5G devices ahead of even networks rolling out. So when networks do start, there's already a kind of a ready-made population waiting to connect.
And I find that really interesting, and that was reflected in a couple of points in the presentations a moment ago. 5G devices selling in markets like India, where there isn't a network rollout yet. Madhav, obviously, this is a market you know very, very well. How do you see that? Why do you see that working, and how are you seeing that out on the ground?
Thank you very much, David, for asking this question. I think it's an amazing opportunity to speak this particular answer. The reason is because I would definitely say, like what my other peers also said about, one is affordability. But I think what realme as a company is trying to drive is the reasons to buy for the consumers, because we are trying to educate them that people need to replace the next device within next 18 to 24 months. And within the next 18 to 24 months, definitely there would be services rolling out. So apart from the services, there are add-on benefits which the chipset manufacturers are giving, which is much higher than the 4G chipsets. And to make it more affordable, to give them a reason to buy, and that is what realme is trying to drive at.
And Rajan, I'll throw this question to you as well, because, around the devices themselves, something that we've hit on a number of times over the last 50 minutes or so is, aside from the network, it's the rich experiences, the rich consumer user experiences that they provide, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say and I think the consumer understands that. It's not that, well, it has been a task of Madhav and myself to do that, and we have been doing it. I think the consumer more and more understands about what he sees different on that, whether it is gaming, whether it is just a sort of a better camera supported by the new 5G entry-tier device too. So that has been one. One additional point I do want to mention, David, is that how it's going to help countries like India when devices preceded the network so early. The network operators do find a huge motivation now, because typically when they launch it, they say, oh, there is no device ecosystem. Here in this case, probably that one big reasons we have ticked it off and said, oh, it's available. So by the time the networks are there commercially available, you would see a good part of India already on 5G.
Yeah. Really interesting. And, as we've pointed out, different to previous Gs when we've kind of taken our first steps into those. With each of those previous Gs, we've seen a big shift, a big change, a new capability. Mobile broadband being able to, do proper mobile video streaming on demand, for example. So to what extent do you see 5G being able to bring in one of these big shifts, one of these big sea changes from previous technologies? I guess, what are people going to be doing with these new phones on these new networks? Madhav, again, I guess this comes down to the experience point.
Yeah, I think this is something which is really exciting, because there are not a lot of use case scenarios as of now for 5G. But I believe the techies around the world, they are more pretty excited about the 5G and the chipsets, what the benefits, what they're offering it. Mainly, if I talk about the services, I'm sure there is going to give a host of opportunity, not only for the developers, but even for the users. It may be a home entertainment, it may be a smart home, it may be a smart audio, smart wearables. Everything around you, which is a conventional, is going to move to smart. And I believe 5G is going to be the fuel to connect all this ecosystem to one particular person, which is us. So I think 5G is going to bring host of opportunity, and these are the questions which has always been arised when there's a generation leap from 3G to 4G, 4G to 5G, and why do we need it? And I have seen all these transitions, and people now cannot live without 4G, and that's what is going to happen similar with 5G as well.
Super. I'll throw this question around to the rest of the panel as well, because I'm sure everyone's got their own views on what people are going to be doing next on these 5G devices. Rajan, very quickly.
So I'm very clear about this, that inventions are not made just before the G is available. So I'll give you one example. Rather, I would say, let's look at it two ways. Just try to switch off your 4G for one day and see what happens to your life. Then try switching off your 3G and then see what happens to your life. You take the 4G, so it becomes an inherent part of your life. Likewise, I would say 5G is going to be. Now, The second point is some of the applications which were developed, like for example, the ride-sharing apps. These weren't there in the days of 3G, right? And they were now not even considered when 3G when 4G was launched. When 4G came in, the ride-sharing app became more popular because now you're able to track the location. You have decent data speeds that you are able to track. Those applications which have fundamentally changed our life, the video apps, the WhatsApp calling, right, or any of the data calling services, these are all enabled because of 4G. These weren't essentially thought of when you had 4G coming in, right? Likewise, I think I'm very sure 5G is going to bring so much more that if we are talking probably 3 years from now, you will have a lot of those applications, and I'll be telling you that please try to switch off your 5G and see how it has impacted your life.
Yeah. Look forward to chatting to you in a few years' time and, yeah, seeing how people respond to that. Calvin, very, very quickly, closing thoughts on this point from you.
No, I think I would concur with all of that. I think we know that mobile is what we call a general purpose technology. You know, in addition to giving people a lot of entertainment, you know, it makes workers and firms more productive. We've seen a number of countries, it's really driven improvements in access to healthcare and education. We know from our own research as well as others that upgrading through the different technologies drove higher economic impacts from 2G to 3G and 3G to 4G. So our current estimates that I presented in the slide is based on that sort of continuing. With some of the transformative impacts that 5G could have, it could obviously be greater. We'll see what happens in a few years' time when we get to do this study again. But yeah, I think there's as Rajan said, you know, a lot of the applications that 5G will enable, we don't even know about now.
Super stuff. Well, let's talk about one of the potential potholes in the road, again, in response to some of the questions we've had coming in. And Peter, I'll come to you on this one. There has been a lot in the news at the moment about the potential risks from chip shortages. So, Peter, how do you see this potentially impacting 5G, the 5G market?
Yeah, it's certainly something that's been in the news, but actually what we've seen is that 5G chipsets are kind of at the leading edge of development, and they are the least impacted by the chipset shortages. It's actually 4G chips that are more impacted, albeit that, as Madhav said in his presentation, there's a lot of components in a 5G device, so there are more things like power management ICs, which are one of the critical components that are in shortage. So there is some risk to the numbers, but you know, as I say, it seems to be impacting other technologies or other Gs, so 4G and other technologies such as the automotive sector much more than the mobile one.
Super stuff. We've literally got 2 minutes left, so we're going to try and bomb through one or two more questions coming in. Okay, so this one, by when and how can we expect 5G phones from realme? So this is one for you, Madhav. In the under 10K, so I guess that's 10,000 rupees, $150, something like that, segment for a wider audience. This is from an industry vlogger. Yeah, so the magic 10K, Madhav, when can we expect devices in that range?
Which is like $150 and less, I think definitely by next year.
Okay, that was the quick answer I wanted. Thank you very much indeed. Hope that was helpful. I'm going to combine two questions and we'll see if we can get it in 90 seconds. Two questions in one. Convince me that 5G is worth paying for in a phone. What do you get besides somewhat faster downloads? And what if you don't want to download movies? Who cares? That's from someone in the tech media industry. And then from a satellite operator, the majority of the population still relies on 2G and 3G. Why should they care about 5G? Who wants to pick that one up? I'm Calvin, I'll come to you first of all.
Sure. I think the second point I can certainly answer. So it's true, a lot of, especially in rural areas, are using 2G, 3G. But again, that partly just comes down to either an affordability or a skills-related barrier. Where 4G is available, especially in India, the users do use it. And in fact, their data consumption is just as high, their activities are just as intense as other users as well. So if it's available, they will use it.
Super stuff. I'm afraid that we are out of time. Thank you so much for watching, for sharing all of your questions with us. We're trying to get through as many of them as we can. We've been hearing today how 5th generation mobile technology is beginning to deliver on its promise, and we've learned how a range of devices are being brought to market at very accessible price points. And as major emerging markets come online over the coming year, I'm pretty sure we'll see the pace of change only driven further by 5G. We'll see that pace of change accelerate. A big thank you to our guests, Calvin, Peter, Madhav, and Rajan. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. But for now, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.